Hi, how you doing? It's Russell. So welcome to this next video where I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful Swiss roll. And we need to make the dough, so that's what I'm going to do here now. So I'm going to start off with what we're going to call the dry ingredients in the food processor. So I've got some cashews, which I'm just going to grind those down into a flour first of all. Okay, so when they've stopped making noise, they've ground down into a flour. There's still some texture to them, but that's, completely okay. That's what we're looking for. We're going to do a bit more grinding on those when I add the wet ingredients as well, so it's all good. So we've got some oat flour. We've got, this is the ground almonds. Then we've got some coconut flour. And we've got some psyllium. So this is the psyllium husks rather than the psyllium powder. I found this gives a nicer colour to the dough. We want the dough to be as light as possible and the powder can be a little bit darker. So that's going to go in. Give those a quick combine. Okay, so that's going to form the basis of our dough. That's going to, the psyllium in there is going to make everything nice and springy. So what we need to do now to bulk out the rest of the dough is we're going to use some courgette or zucchini and we're going to peel it because we don't want to end up with a green Swiss roll. Okay, and then I'll just top and tail that as well. Okay, that's going to go in the Vitamix or any kind of similar blender that you've got. Now for sweetness, we're going to do maple syrup. I don't want to do all maple syrup though because we're thinking about colour with this. We want that, as I say, that dough to be a bit brighter. So I'm using xylitol here. So sweeteners, everybody's got kind of a different sweetener that they're happy to use. The xylitol I want to use here because of the colour, but if you don't want to use that, you can use coconut sugar. Just be aware that it's going to, the colour is going to darken up a little bit. A couple of pinches of salt in there. A little bit of vanilla extract, and then we're going to put in an oil. So we're using cold pressed sesame oil because it's very, hasn't got a distinctive taste at all. It's quite neutral in its taste. And that oil and that fat is going to help bind everything together, help with the kind of the sponginess of it and the pliability of it. And then some water. Okay, let's blend this up. Okay, so that might look like a lot of liquid, but you've got to take into account the fact that there's psyllium in here, so it's going to go spongy. So the way that I like to do this, you can do this in a bowl and mix it by hand, but what I found during testing is that it kind of clumps together and it can be tricky to get it as smooth as you want it. So the easiest way I've found is to have all of your dry ingredients go in here and just slowly add the wet mixture to it. Okay. So that's all ground together nicely now. You'll notice, you can see here in the food processor, it's still quite liquidy. So I'm just going to leave that for about 5 or 10 minutes now. The psyllium will go nice and spongy, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to roll it out into the pastry. Okay, so now we've got our dough, well, it's been sitting for about 5 minutes. We've got it nice and a lot firmer, at least, so it's spreadable now and it's rollable. So you can see how that sits up. It's just fantastic, the action of that, the psyllium, making that pastry-like. Another 5 minutes actually and it would be a lot firmer, but this is good for now. You should be able to get a couple out of this, depending on how big you roll it out and you spread it out. But just start with a, half or 3/4 of an amount, because we're going to roll it and cut it to size. And then because it's not that firm, you don't really need to roll it out other than really the weight of a decent rolling pin. Okay, so I'm just rolling that out. And I guess I want it about the thickness, 1 centimetre, which, I don't know, it's about 1/3 of an inch maybe, 1/4 of an inch. And you can have a look halfway through and see where you're at. And actually, the longer you leave the dough and the firmer it gets, the easier this is. But that should be good. Okay, so then all you need to do is just cut that to size and remove the bits that you cut away. You can just neaten those up, and again, even this bit, if you want to leave it for a few minutes more, if it's firmer, you can make a nice clean cut. Okay, so that's the kind of shape you're looking for. Then obviously I can remove these pieces onto a separate piece, use the rest of it, and I can get 2 out of that. So we're going to put this into the dehydrator, and then we're going to dehydrate it, and about an hour before it's ready, we're going to take it out and spread the jam on. So that's what you'll see next. Okay, so we've got our really nice pastry here, nice and pliable, not quite finished yet. We're taking it out about an hour before it's fully done to spread the jam on. So here's this beautiful jam that Amy made, and we want to spread the jam on and then put it back in the dehydrator for about an hour so that the jam goes nice and sticky, so that we can then put the coconut cream on top there as well. So this really depends on the thickness of the jam, how thick you made it, as to how close to the edges you want to go. But in my experience here, you can go pretty close to the edge, because remember, we're going to roll this up and we don't want it squidging out. It's just to kind of balance, not having it kind of all seeping out the sides, but also getting all the way to the end. So I would just advise leaving a little bit of space around all of the edges, because you can always trim it and make it look neat afterwards, but you kind of can't do that if it spills over the edge. Okay, so that's a really nice amount of jam. And we'll just pop that into the dehydrator, like I say, for about an hour to get that sticky, and then we'll come back and do the next stage. So here is our beautiful pastry out of the dehydrator. You can see there that the raspberry jam has firmed up. It's quite sticky now on top. So that's ready for our coconut manna, or our icing here, our manna that we turned into icing. You can see this has gone in the fridge a lot firmer, which is perfect. So we'll just take some of this, pop it in the middle here, and I spent some time putting this in the fridge, ready to put this manna on, because if we take this straight out of the dehydrator and put this cream on, it's just going to kind of go everywhere. So you don't want to be putting this icing, this cream, onto a warm surface. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to, get a good covering of it on there, so that when we roll it up, it comes together nicely. And then I don't know if you can start to see that there, but even allowing this to cool down and having it in the fridge, It's still a little bit warm and the manna or the icing has started to melt there, which is fine. It just helps us kind of spread it. So once you've got a good covering, that's loosening up quite nicely. I'm going to put a little bit more on actually. Okay, that's starting to loosen up really nicely. Now I'm going to pop my spatula here into some hot water, warm it up, dry it off, and then that just spreads beautifully. Okay, fantastic. So now we're ready to roll. Okay, so I want to get this kind of tight to begin with, and the pastry is going to crack right at the start, but that's fine because as we go on and it gets a less tight roll, that pastry just expands with it. There we go, that can be cleaned up at the edge there. Fantastic. So that is going to go, I'll probably put that into the freezer now actually to firm that up so that I can get a nice clean cut, and then we'll show you what it looks like. So here we are with the almost finished product, the Swiss roll, and we've had this in the fridge just long enough for that cream to kind of firm up a little bit more, and the jam as well, and it's ready for slicing. So you'll see on the ends here it looks a bit scrappy, but as we slice into that it will start to look much more neat and tidy. So we'll start by just cutting off the end, and actually I'll put the roll down the bottom so it cuts nicely. And so, yeah, that bit you're not normally going to serve. And what you'll probably want to do is, in between slices, just wipe your knife off. And you can see that's really, really nice and spongy and gives that the perfect kind of swirl. And actually I found that in the fridge over the course of a few days it gets even spongier. So really nice if you can make, or if you can find some store-bought raw ice cream or some coconut milk ice cream somewhere. Really, really nice to serve that with the ice cream. So enjoy, and leave any comments or questions you've got underneath the video, and we'll help you out, because I'd love for you to try this and love to see the results of what you've come up with.